Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I want to talk about the new evolutions and upgrades that have just gone live in North America. So, new evolution upgrades are an exciting time because it gives the chance that older cards have gained new value, which in turn means you might actually be potentially dusting off cards that you kind of forgot about. So, without further ado, let's just dive right into it. So, Cecilia's Weapon Assist now provides 3 skill boosts and 4 OEs of their respective color. And the active skill gives you a 7x6 board for a single turn of haste, 3 times attack for the respective attribute. And this template is basically just copy pasted for all the different colors. And when you think about it, 3 skill boosts and a weapon assist is just like, what the fish? It was only maybe last year that we may have once in a while seen 2 in a single weapon assist. And now with power creep, it's just full on going to 3 from Godfest exclusives, which are less rare, so to speak. I feel like super rare high seasonal or collaboration cards that you can't really acquire are much rarer by comparison to a 7-star Godfest exclusive. And this exact template applies to all the different ones, so there's no point in really looking at each of them. Basically, a lot of the Cecilia and Sophie buffs apply in the same way to all the different colors. Sea Wolf with no Daytona, the original Sea Wolf, has now many 7 combos, so their active skill will actually provide a bigger attack multiplier. Their stats were buffed. I don't know how, unfortunately, but they are buffed. Leader skill now has, I believe, a much higher parameter for the stat bonus, so it's 3.4 times for all fire attributes. And then this still has a 30% damage reduction, so it's 51% total damage reduction. So it's a pretty large amount of effective health for matching red and blue all the time. You also have his weapon assist being buffed to giving now Rose and enhanced combos, or enhanced fire combos, along with that 7 combo and a skill boost. It's just nice to have. No team HP, but lots of passive damage for fire teams. Seawolf in his non-transforming form has 8-7 combos, tape resist, 4 skill boosts, and the potential to have potentially 10-7 combos. So again, Seawolf's attack multiplier could be quite high. Their active skill has been buffed, and I believe it now makes more orbs of their desired colors. I could be wrong. It's unfortunate we don't know what changed, but I don't think I'm still going to be using these cards anyways. Shiva was once a leader once upon a time. My mom actually used to use Shiva a long time ago. It was one of her favorite leads. It's just now completely forgotten. Even in this form, there's no real much usage for him, I feel. It's a 1 turn of a big shield, potentially high amounts of damage against dragon-type spawns, but beyond that, nothing particularly special. Weapon Assist gives a skill boost, 3 rows, movement time, and 2 team HPs. That alone just makes it so it's possibly desirable. Maybe you don't have many red weapon assists with a skill. It's actually 2 skill boosts. What am I talking about? It's way more exciting than it used to be. So basically, with 2 skill boosts, it does potentially open up some new possibilities. With 2 team HPs, it does make it at least a viable choice. Of course, you may or may not need that extra skill boost, but just having the option of it is meaningful. We're starting to see a kind of a subtle influx of more 2 skill boost weapon assists. Even their Tiara gives 3 rows and 2 7 combos, and that same active skill that was buffed. Royal Oak has 4 Ls, 4 10 combos, 2 VDPs, and it looks like he has room for 1 more Awakening for a future update. Stats were improved, which is kind of cool. And then their leader skill gives, I believe, just more bulk. It gives 2.4 times HP. I believe it's just the HP that was buffed. I'm not quite sure, but it's going to be hard to utilize this card compared to the more glorious options where they're combined with the other Godfest exclusives. Weapon Assist does quite a few things if you like L's and rows, but that may or may not necessarily come to fruition. Royal Oak in their non-transforming form has 8 L's with the potential to get, I don't know, that doesn't tell me the Super Awakenings, but lots of L's. So if you don't like your assists getting removed, this could be a solution to put them all back immediately. And then their transforming active skill is a 4-turn delay, and then it eventually becomes a 2-turn cooldown with light to water, fire to hearts. So not a terrible thing for orb generation. It can be a solution for your assists getting removed, pretty much guaranteeing you put them back on with an L of dark or water. For Ruka's Top Hat, it has 3 skill boosts, which I believe it did beforehand, but it has 2 team HPs now. So, it just opens up some new possibilities. If you need skill boosts, you need bulk, Ruka can do that all for you. Lakshmi is still a terribly underwhelming card with just confusing, a confusing kit overall. They have potentially high damage against Machine, Dragon, and Devil if they all overlap, but they don't. So that's unfortunate. Well, like, it's hard to have, like, a spawn overlap there. The active skill is probably still one of the absolute most awkward ones in the game. It does 50 times attack. So this measly attack will do virtually 0 damage against spawns of billions of health. So insignificant damage. Recovers as much HP as the damage you dealt, so probably 1 damage, so 1 health healed. Okay. Removes orb blocks, changes 6 non-water to hearts, and then fully recovers Awoken Skill Bind. In terms of, like, a cleric, I guess you can make some arguments if you need Awoken Skill Bind on a shorter cooldown, but there are just definitely better options out there. Their Awakenings, like, I don't know, it's a card that just seems awkward. But on the bright side, their weapon assist is kind of like Shiva's. It has 2 skill boosts, 3 rows, movement time, and double team HP. So just this alone is great. Don't skill up this active skill. It looks like it's a different active skill, so luckily 10 turns is something you should be able to dance around. But this becomes not a bad weapon assist. Ignore their base form. Nautilus has 6 rows, 4/7 combos, 4 VDPs, so if you do match VDPs, you can do large amounts of damage. So that obviously can be desirable. And their stats have been buffed. They have a large attack stat, which means in theory they might do some damage. Leader skill, I believe, just gave them more bulk. It's 2.5 times HP. Remember, long ago, it used to be 2 times HP. Now it's 2.5 times HP. So it's 6.25 times HP, 75% damage reduction. I don't know what the effective health is, but it's definitely higher than before. I feel like Nautilus at least has a chance of still being potentially utilized as a leader because we have things like Academy Nautilus, Christmas Manoa, like various asymmetrical pairings that could potentially give him a bit more zest. And if you think about it, these original Transformers have pretty beautiful active skills. It's a 2-turn cooldown that gives them their activation because it converts 1 color to their primary and another to hearts, so that's obviously desirable. And then it gives us attack buff. And depending on the team you're playing, this could be a monstrous attack buff because Nautilus has 6 wood rows, so like that's just a lot of wood rows right there. So there's a good chance other cards in your team have wood rows. So you can have huge attack multipliers, kind of like Daytona does. So I feel like maybe we can find like possible ways to plug in their team. But the problem is they don't have a way to increase their damage cap, which is definitely a problem in high defense dungeons. His weapon assist has VDP, bind immunity, 3 wood rows, and a skill boost. Does a bit of everything nice for their respective team. I find it amusing because Nautilus teams oftentimes will probably want to match VDPs because of the VDP buff doing so much damage as opposed to rows, so there's that kind of weird synergy there, I feel. Nautilus in his other form, which I don't see very often, has improved awakenings, probably just condensed rows, and probably just more 7 combos in VDP compared to beforehand. Similar style of active skill as Royal Oak, 4-turn skill delay, and then 2-turn cooldown of red to green, light to hearts. Parvati gains potentially more VDPs, I believe. Active skill is a 3-turn cooldown of RCV movement time buff, removes orb blocks, changes water to hearts, and then wooden heart orbs are enhanced. It's just not going to be enough to solve activation requirements. I feel like it's just hard to justify her inclusion on any team because no special resist, no true mechanics overwritten beyond like movement time RCV buffing. Her weapon assist, again, like Shiva, like Lakshmi, same idea. 2 skill boosts, 3 rows, double team HP, a second of orb movement time. Indra gains a levitation awakening, and their active skill is a 10-turn cooldown with an attack buff, an RCV buff, 2 turns of damage reduction of 80% along with a single turn of haste. It does a bit of everything, but it's not truly great enough in any one particular metric. They just might have potentially a bit more damage. I feel like Indra is a card I used to use many years ago, and I don't feel like I'm going to go back to using them. Maybe their weapon assist because it falls in the same category as like Shiva, Lakshmi of double skill boost, 3 rows, 2 team HPs, and a second of movement time. Dark Kali received a significant buff, I'd say, overall. Her awakenings now have a levitation, so she will do meaningful damage in super gravity dungeons. Her active skill is a 4-turn cooldown that gives you a full unmatchable removal. Removes orb blocks, all orbs to all attributes plus hearts. With a 4-turn cooldown, it's definitely a much longer and possibly awkward thing to work around and play with because usually system teams want to be 2-turn cooldowns or 3 at the very worst. So Kali is not solving enough mechanics. If it was removing Bind, Awoken Bind on top of this, it would be definitely much more viable to bring because you're not using it for the orb generation. But I don't feel like you can rely on it purely for just recover unmatchable. Again, they can have meaningful personal damage, but I think it's their weapon assists that are much more exciting. Her original weapon assist, I believe it is, has triple team HP, so right away it's obviously a good enough weapon assist because you need usually 2 team HPs or more to really survive most content, so triple means that you're better than 2. And then it brings guard break, and guard break is obviously only useful for rainbow based teams, but at this point in time with like the current title challenge, they have immense defense value, so things like guard break tend to be the easiest way to overcome those spawns. And lo and behold, guard break will make it so that your rainbow card who does deal meaningful damage will overcome that high defensive value. On the other hand, her red form gains kind of that similar idea, gains that levitation, gains the potential to deal personal damage, but it's kind of the opposite. On a 4-turn cooldown, you give Awoken Skill Bind removal, and then the board changes. So kind of awkward there still, but their weapon assist is incredibly spicy. It has a 4 attribute awakening, which is 3.5 times personal damage, so a significant damage boost. Tape resist, which we love to have on rainbow teams. Without tape resist, you can potentially just lose straight up on rainbow teams because you make a board, your orbs that are necessary are in the tape, you can't bring them together, you suffer instead. So that is meaningful. A second of movement time, which is great, and then double team HP. So for rainbow-based teams, this might be one of the best tape resist options we are going to have available, simply because it gives bulk and damage on top of it and movement time. Just hopefully we don't skill up this active skill so it never actually overcharges. Again, her blue form gains that levitation. In theory, she does deal huge damage with 5 attribute awakenings, but the active skill is just a movement time buff and a 7x6 expander on a 21 divided by 3 7-turn cooldown. Nothing truly spectacular, I feel, overall, but her weapon assist goes kind of the opposite. Instead of team HPs, it's team RCV, so much less useful. Cloud resist, 5 attribute awakening. So I feel like Callie as a whole just gained a significant amount of zest. Another weapon assist that Callie has is skill boost, 5 attribute, bind immunity, kind of nice, no team HP, unfortunate there. Vitra has levitation awakening, but unfortunately their active skill doesn't really make dark orb, so it's going to be hard for you to actually, capitalize on these awakenings. It's a 3-turn cooldown that does a direct dark damage, dark attack buff, and it gives him a damage cap increase, but doesn't make orbs. Weapon assist does make orbs, has that same template of Lakshmi and Shiva, where it's double skill boost, rows, team HP, movement time. Active skill makes a single row of dark and 5 times attack for dark for 1 turn. Definitely has some potential usage there, but then again, if you can't activate off a single row, it's not going to be enough. Sophie, in her base form, follows a more rainbow-oriented playstyle. More offensive might, but I don't know if it's going to be quite enough damage. Active skill gives you attack buff, movement time, RCV buff, a 1-turn shield, and OEs, like enhancing all orbs. So it does a bit of everything, which is nice, but it does break your looping shields, which might be a little problematic. On the flip side, Sophie's evolved color forms are going to follow this similar template of 4-10 combos and 4 killers. So if those killers line up, they will deal meaningful amounts of damage with those 4-10 combos, so that can be nice. They all have an active skill that is a universal buffer in the sense that it gives attack, movement time, RCV buffing, it gives that damage reduction, and the orb enhancing. So they're kind of like a Jill of all traits. They do a bit of everything, so to speak, with their active skill. They do have potentially personal damage against the correct typings for their killers. And they all start with a 7x6 board in their leader skill that has been improved to give, I believe, more bulk at least, before you leader swap in a more desirable leader. And then this same template will apply to every single other Sophie in their other colors, because it's just kind of like Cecilia. They just have different colors copy pasted with slightly different killer distributions. So we're going to scroll past all this because they are all essentially identical with what they do. Weapon assist wise, again, it's going to follow a similar copy pasting method, but different killers, different color OEs, and different color rows. But again, if you need lots of passive damage for your monocolor teams, especially if they use rows, they can be a spectacular choice as their weapon assist. And these killers can provide immense damage bonus against those respective spawns. 2 different killers can be meaningful. It's 5 times personal damage, and if they can't break their damage cap, so to speak, because they're a transforming card, it does give a 20% increase, because natural killers give a 20% increase to damage cap, assuming they had no other damage capping increasing modification. Again, copy pasting for all the different colors. Cecilia, in her Base form has double cross, some 7 combos. It's not enough damage, I feel, to make it meaningful, so it's kind of underwhelming. Active skill gives a roulette, movement time, voids damage absorption for 2 turns. Not a bad active skill on a 6-turn cooldown, but the awakenings, I feel like unless you need the L's or lots of crosses, it's not quite that great. And then Cecilia's color forms are going to be similar template of 2 crosses, 2 killers, 2 10 combos, super resist of some kind, and this active skill that's a 4-turn cooldown that gives a roulette, attack buff, movement time, and RCV. Doesn't interrupt your looping shield, so I feel like Cecilia's do gain a bit more flexibility in that sense because it doesn't break your looping shields. They do provide universal buffing and a roulette to get rid of annoying spinners. Leader skill wise, they are 7x6 again for the same idea of setting up a bigger board. Enter with Cecilia as your leader. Leader swap in your leader afterwards. Your life may be a little bit easier potentially if the bigger board is necessary. And then they're going to follow a very similar template of their awakenings have the same double killer, double cross, double 10, super resist of some kind. So they do potentially some-ish damage. They have a universal buffer. It's going to be the exact same thing for all the Cecilias. So we're just going to scroll right through them. And then that's all the actual buffs. But that's not all because the Mystics Inspectors is coming for a very brief rerun. Extremely brief rerun with hardly any buffs. But we're going to just touch upon them quickly. Sena has gained, I believe, more personal damage. I believe, like, I see only just 7 combos condensed. Double VDP means they might do more damage. But the thing is, Shanna and Clive are just a better red-based team at this point in time, so not as inclined there. Toka, I think, got a meaningful buff because now it's a 4-turn instead of what I think was a 6-turn cooldown. She still can be your solution to put assists back on. The active skill does give RCV and movement time, so it's not a terrible option there. Does deal large amounts of damage. Yukine now has 5 10 combos, so her personal damage is definitely higher if you're playing like Granerve Toby, which is obviously welcomed and desired. She still has her Cloud and Tape Resist, so she's providing a myriad of resist. Her active skill is unchanged. It's still a great solution for damage penetration, making a spinner for orb generation, or getting rid of other spinners. Azuna, I believe, gained an extra 10 combo instead of 2. Now it's 3 10 combos. I could be mistaken. Wasn't a card I used very often, but I feel like for wood-based TPA teams, she would be a good choice because it is a cleric on a 4-turn cooldown with damage penetration and meaningful personal damage in levitation because of her levitation awakening. Gigantic Skeleton Man Mukotsu, it has received arguably one of the biggest buffs in this event. They are a middle rarity card, so it's hard to roll them, but in order to transform, you only can transform now starting on turn 3 and after. Huge difference compared to turn 5, or not turn, battle, like floor 3 and after, as opposed to floor 5 and after. So he gets transformed at a much quicker rate, and that's going to make a big difference because in this current form, they're much weaker. They have to match Fire and Dark without possibly having orb generation solutions. And then once they are transformed, it's triple 10 combo, 4 L's, and then the Poison Surge Awakening. I forgot what it's called. Poison Blessing. Basically, their leader skill wants you to match Fire, Dark, and Poison Orbs. Their active skill gives on a 2-turn cooldown 3 times attack for this particular card. Give them damage cap increase to 5 billion. Removes locks, makes 5 Fire, Dark, Hearts, and Poison. So basically, on a 2-turn cooldown with 2 of these guys, you're able to guarantee yourself leader skill activation with an immense attack multiplier, large amounts of damage reduction with flat HP as well on top of that, and RCV to counteract the Poison Orbs. Their personal damage will be sky high because triple 10 combo, 4 L's, and the ability to guarantee yourself a red and a dark L every single time is going to ensure that they hit for large amounts of damage, even in Super Gravity. And the fact that they are relatively brainless to play, you only need to own 1 copy, means they can be a potentially spectacular leader for current endgame content. Ruko has gained enhanced damage, I believe, just more L's maybe? More 10 combos, not quite sure. It's not really a card I found myself particularly interested in using because their transformed active gives you a board changer and then 1 turn delay voiding damage for 1 turn. Like, I don't feel like that's enough value for a given card because we tend to want to have damage reduction lasting a long time as opposed to a single turn. So I don't quite know how we could squeeze him in, but overall, Mukutsu gained the biggest buff, I'd say, overall, with Yukine being probably the most used one right now that gained another damage buff. So that being said, let me know what you lovely ladies and gentlemen think about all these buffs in the comments section down below. Any particular card you're excited for, or are you just happy that older cards receive buffs? Regardless of that, hopefully all you lovely ladies and gentlemen have a truly fantastic day. I wish you best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.